Whether it's your first time buying a new car, your 50th time buying a new car, what do you do after you receive it, and how do you be sure that when you receive it, it's in as good of condition as possible? Now, these are some of my tips that I've learned from a prolific car buyer in my dad, who has always been the annoying guy to buy a car from. No dealer really wants to deal with him, except for the fact that he generally buys a lot of cars. But you have to be that person, essentially, that a dealership doesn't necessarily view just as a transaction, but a potential pain in the ass. So, this is my 2022 Bronco. I knew that this car was going to be coming via truck, and I had a lot of awareness based upon how Ford has utilized a new electronic ordering system that gives you, the consumer, a lot of awareness as to when your car is going to be built and when it's going to be delivered. So, at every possible contact that Ford gave me, I contacted my dealer, ensuring a couple things. One, I didn't want anybody to touch the car. I wanted it to be delivered in as original of state as possible. That means all of the plastic protection, any adhesives that they place on the car, I don't want them to take any of that off. I know they've got to do a PDI, but as little as possible to be done. Because if they put it through a tunnel wash, guess what? I'm already dealing with swirl marks. And again, that could be one of 50 cars that they're receiving before big sales weekend. So I reminded him, I don't want a front license plate installed. I want all the plastic on it, and I don't want it to be washed. Now, I had 4 contacts from Ford, including when my car was shipped and when it was going to be delivered. Each of those 4 contacts, I made sure to contact my dealer. By the 3rd time I'd contact him, he said, yes, I already know. I've got a note on it. And that's the kind of response you need to essentially establish. You want to be the person that they don't want to have to deal with when you finally receive your car. They just want to transact and get you out of there and go to somebody who cares a lot less. So I was able to accomplish that with this car. It came with all the factory decals on it, all of the inspection stickers, the original window sticker, the plastic on the seats, stuff that, yes, I will have to do the work to remove, but I'd much rather have it be me than anybody else. Now, I asked our dealership not to wash the car. This car is a domestic model, so it came via truck. It was uncovered. However, if you're ordering a car that's from Europe or Japan, that has to go on a boat. Sometimes they cover those cars a lot better, and so you might not be fighting as many of the conditions that I'll suggest. But it's good to note how the car was transported to you, because it will guide your process. If it goes on a train or a truck, it's most likely subjected to weather, iron fallout, iron from train brake discs. So there's a lot that's probably sitting in this car above and beyond just the dirt. And I'm sure, because I didn't pay $2,000 for the dealership protection package, that there's no protection on any of those systems as well. So we're going to clean the car up, assess the paint surface, and then guide you through your first approach on all of those unique materials and systems around the car. So first and foremost, we're going to focus on the exterior. As you can see, this car is pretty dirty, so I can't really assess what I need to do to the paint before I wash it. So that's going to be our first step. We're going to give it a thorough wash. After the wash, we're going to decontaminate the paint. Depending on the method of transit, it may be worse. So train is generally the biggest problem in terms of all the iron and ferrous metals it's going to be exposed to. But we are going to still have some organic contaminants that a mechanical decontamination, such as a clay bar, should help to remove. We'll do a chemical decontamination process using iron and fallout. And then once the car is dry, we're going to assess the paint so that we know the process we need to get to, whether that be polishing and then protecting, or simply adding protection. But you're totally safe to polish a brand new car. In fact, you might have to, because you'll have some dealer installed swirl marks. Then we're going to look at other systems such as trim. On a Bronco like this one, there's a lot of exposed trim. I want to dress it and prevent UV from damaging it from day one. I will also want to protect the glass. I'm going to go on a road trip almost immediately in this car. I'm going to put glass sealant or ceramic glass cleaner on all the exterior windows. I've got a convertible soft top, so I'm going to clean it and then most likely add fabric protectant, not only for water repellency, but also UV inhibition. And then I'm going to do my tires and wheels, most likely applying ceramic 3-in-1 or ceramic speed shine to the wheel before removing it. I'll probably do a wheels off detail a little later after this road trip. Lastly, we'll jump in the interior. The interior is really going to be focused on how do I protect those interior materials and remove any adhesives such as the window stickers that were left on because I asked them to be left on. It's a really simple approach, but there's a couple tools that I'll show you that make it really, really easy. And then finally, I'll protect all the interior surfaces with either interior detailer or vinyl and rubber dressing to get that UV inhibition from the get-go.
A lifelong bias makes me clean wheels and tires first every time so that I don't take any of the gunk from those lower systems and bring them onto a perfectly clean surface afterwards. These are big tires and it's a new wheel set, so I'm going to be doing some learning, but I started with heavy duty wheel cleaner and foaming tire cleaner. Let those chemicals do some work for me. The beadlock wheels have little ruts, so I used a tool that I thought would be the best for the first time, but as you clean your wheels and tires the first time, you might find you have different tool preferences. We've got a lot of options here at Griot's Garage. These 35-inch mud terrains on the Sasquatch package have a lot of texture. Our tire scrubbing brush makes it easy. All I gotta do is rinse it off and move on to the next step.
So I focused on all the adhesive on the glass, primarily because the car is quite warm and the glass is going to be a lot less sensitive than a paint system. Now there were some adhesive marks and stickers and body protection on the paint itself. I'm not going to use an adhesive remover before I thoroughly clean the paint system. I'm hoping that my preliminary cleaning and decontamination will soften that adhesive, if not remove it completely. And I don't want to go use an adhesive remover on that dirty paint. So I've done it on all the glass and any of the insensitive systems, primarily wheels and glass. And now I'm gonna go wash the car with foaming surface prep. Hopefully that alkaline-based foaming cleaner will get rid of a ton of this organic contaminant and soften, if not completely remove, the adhesive that was on the paint.
Using a Boss foam cannon, I can thread that cannon directly onto a 35-ounce bottle of foaming surface prep. I'm gonna foam the car. Starting from the bottom up on a completely dry car, I'm trying to maximize the cling and chemical decontamination potential. FSP is great on organic contaminants, and in controlled conditions, I'm gonna want a maximum dwell of about 5 to 10 minutes. This alkaline-based cleaner is not ideal for use every time, but this is the first time I wash my car, and I'm trying to be as safe as possible. As you can see, the chemical is definitely doing some work, dragging a ton of dirt off the surface of the car, so I don't rub it into the paint surface the first time I touch it. A high-pressure rinse will release even more of those organic contaminants that didn't drip off the car. Being very thorough, going through the wheel wells, and giving the tires another once over. You can see the water behavior already. Paint surface is really flat. Extra caution, I'm gonna do a hand wash using Brilliant Finish car wash and microfiber wash pads. On top to bottom. You can rinse or wash the convertible top on these modern cars quite confidently. I'm just working my way around the car, being extra thorough. Again, in that rinse, you can see the water is just flat. There's nothing on this car. This is ideal. Olé, baby, Matador style.
So I just finished up the first ever wash of my Bronco, and I am happy to say that I am really excited that I was the first one to wash it. It allowed me to do the foaming surface prep, which removed a ton of the organic materials, especially in that high pressure rinse, which we recommend after you've allowed the product to dwell for 5 to 10 minutes. And because it was still obvious there was some heavier stuff in the paint, I did hand wash it using Brilliant Finish car wash. That is so that any of that stuff that was still stuck on after that foaming process, which was very little, as evidenced by how smoothly the wash tool glided across the paint, would be removed. So I dried the car, and again, very happy with how the paint is looking, but now we're gonna do iron and fallout remover because as I was drying, I did feel and see a few things stuck in the paint. So we're gonna do chemical decontamination before a mechanical decontamination. And it's best to do iron and fallout on a dry car so that product has the most time to dwell and activate. And its goal is to dissolve any ferrous particles, which is critical in terms of vehicle delivery, again, via train or by a semi-truck. And the fact that this was so uncovered, we're definitely going to have some ferrous metals that product will dissolve. After we rinse that off, the car will be wet, and I'll use a mechanical decontamination and one of our synthetic clay tools, lubricated with a fresh bucket of Brilliant Finish car wash before drying it once more. And then I will assess the paint surface and see what we're gonna do to protect this thing. So follow along.
Iron and fallout remover can be sprayed on the car like this or delivered via foam cannon. It can be applied to a wet car, however, a dry car is going to maximize cleaning, and those purple streaks are it dissolving ferrous metals. Gonna rinse this off, leave the car wet, and proceed to a mechanical decontamination using Brilliant Finish car wash in a fresh bucket and a Brilliant Finish synthetic clay tool. I break it in on the glass before proceeding to the paint surfaces.
So most of the time, people are saying, well, how my car's not contaminated, how could I know? Well, one is touch, but also, if you can hear it, we're definitely encountering some contamination on this hood. And then on the second pass, we're hearing almost none. So, we got it out. So we finished the decontamination process and dried the car, and then I went over the entire painted surface and inspected it with our Boss Swirl Finder light just to make sure that there wasn't any marring from the clay process, which sometimes there is on softer finishes, so you have to be aware of that. If you do clay your car, it's one thing to inspect. And thankfully, with this new factory finish, which is clearly pretty hard, I did not see significant, if any, marring at all. The only defects on the entire paint system I saw were a few water spots on the hood, which at this point, to me, makes me think I don't need to polish this entire car. And it also makes me grateful that I told the dealer not to touch it, because if you do have a dealer touch it and they put it through a tunnel wash or have a guy clean it with a dirty brush, you're almost certainly going to see swirl marks and wash-induced scratches upon receiving the car. So that is an integral step. I'm very thankful that I took that step. And trust me, being annoying is worth it because I'm looking at a fresh paint system that all I have to do now is protect. So even though we didn't use Speed Shine as our clay lubricant, which has some silicones in it, which we would want to strip away before applying protection, I am still going to go over the entire surface of the car, including the glass, with Surface Prep Cleanser. This is going to strip away any silicones or polishing oils, anything that is on the paint, which there should not be a lot. Both of my decon processes were pretty insignificant, thank God. But then it'll prepare the paint for protection. And in this case, because I'm not going to do any correction steps, which again, you can do and should do if you see swirl marks upon receiving your car, I'm just going to apply ceramic 3-in-1 wax, 2 coats of it, and then do ceramic glass cleaner and glass sealant on all the glass surfaces before moving to the interior.
The interior protection materials don't tend to leave behind adhesive residue, so I just remove them all. And then the marine grade vinyl and all the high quality plastics inside this Bronco only necessitate an interior detailer for UV protection. So I wiped everything down and I was done in there. Factory delivered glass definitely should be polished. It'll give you the best base for future protection. There's not a lot of glass on this Bronco because of the convertible top setup. And I simply polished the glass in order to better prepare it to receive glass sealant, which should last quite a bit of time on these side windows and set you up, in particular with this road trip ahead of me, for great ease of cleaning in the future. I apply 2 coats of glass sealant, letting the first coat cure for about 10 minutes, becomes hazy, apply a second coat, allow the same 10-minute cure, and then remove the excess.
So we're finally finished doing the very first detail on my Ford Bronco. I am very happy to say that because I was as obnoxious as suggested, I found very little defects upon doing a thorough wash and decontamination of the car, which allowed me to simply add protection in the form of ceramic 3-in-1 wax. I did have plenty of adhesive to take off, both in the interior glass, exterior glass, and the paint system. And I would much rather be doing that after I've cleaned the car, so I was able to do that as well. And then finally, we polished and protected the glass and then dressed the tires. So we've done everything outside of treat the trim and put fabric protectant on the top. However, the top is wet, so I'm gonna let it dry out before I apply that fabric protectant. And I'm gonna do the trim a little later tonight. This is a very work-intensive process, but it can be made worse if you do not insist upon having the car delivered as I described, with it being very obnoxious to the dealer, making it known that you are the one person they do not want to deal with if you touch your car. They may say that you're the first person that asked to receive a dirty car, and you should be proud of that, because it makes that much less work for you when you finally do receive your pride and joy, and can also be sure that you start your care regimen right with as much paint on the car as possible and get the result and experience that I had. So hopefully you follow those tips, you enjoyed this video, and you can follow along and be very happy to receive a brand new car in the condition I received mine. Thank you very much for watching. Have fun in your garage.